Thank you so much for listening to Partners in Education. And today we've got quite a program set up. We've got a really great event happening tomorrow at the bakery in Sioux Falls. Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing, tomorrow from 11:30 until 1 o'clock. Again, that is coming up tomorrow on June 23rd at the bakery in Sioux Falls. We'll tell you how you can join that or how you could actually log in and watch it on the internet here in just a bit. But first, introduce my guests that I have in the studio from Keystone. I have Matt and I have Eric with me. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Jay.
Oh, we're beautiful, John.
And from Sunny Radio, we have Jam and Jay with us in here as well. How you doing, Jay?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad to have you. I think this is the biggest party we've ever had in here for Partners in Education. Now, we've had a lot of guests one at a time, but I think this is the first time we've had this many all at once. So, first of all, let's kind of get things started. We'll start with Matt. When we very first started doing this program, one of the topics that we talked about, something that's near and dear to my heart, is an epidemic we have in our state with teen suicide overall, but even more so teen suicide. Something that you guys have worked really hard on is the Jason Flatt Act. Now, let's talk a little bit about the progress and where we're at with that.
Thanks, John, for asking. The Jason Flatt Act we passed it in the South Dakota legislature this past session. Law takes effect in July.
Nice.
So it was a great thing. The Board of Education, my understanding is they're set to release the guidelines and the training opportunities for teachers. The Jason Flatt Act requires that teachers receive at least 1 hour of training in teen suicide prevention per recertification cycle. And so they're going to roll that out through the Department of Ed. There will be training opportunities presented to teachers, and then they will know the warning signs for teen suicide, what to look for, and then how to refer appropriately.
That's awesome. And this is something that I've talked to politicians who were very excited that this has happened. One of the things they liked is it didn't cost us anything. So that was really nice. What a no-brainer. But I've also talked to people in the education system that say, this is a really good thing. So I don't know that were there any opponents at all to this? I don't think there were any, were there?
There were no formal opponents that came out on this because it's a great bill. It's a great idea. There's no cost. It's a very simple idea. We also, since we know that suicide is one of the leading killers of young people in South Dakota, the important thing for people to know is that it is the leading preventable cause of death for young people. And with the right tools and the right approach, we know that this is one of the most impactful things we can do to prevent teen suicide in the state of South Dakota. There are other things that we can do too, but this is, I think, part of that leading edge. We know it's been shown to work in other states. For instance, in Tennessee, when they did it, within 3 years, they reduced the rate of teen suicide by 28%.
Wow.
Which is tremendous. Some people think 28% isn't much, but to me, when you measure that in teens' lives, that's huge.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see this come to South Dakota, and we're really excited to be part of that solution.
And this is something that many people know someone who's been through this, families that have been through this. We just recently, even since we started doing this program, lost a friend to teen suicide. So it's something that really is a very important thing, and I'm really glad that came to fruition, and thank you for championing that in this state and helping to make that happen. It was a great thing. So congrats on all the hard work paying off.
Well, we had a lot of help, and I appreciate your help. I appreciate all the other folks that came to Pierre and supported it and wrote their legislators and were part of that solution, because if it's just one guy, me, going to Pierre banging on pots and pans saying, hey, we need to change something, it ain't going to happen.
Is that what you do out there with pots and pans?
I could, but if it was just me, it wouldn't change. But we had a sustained voice of a lot of people, and we have a good bill. It was a good bill.
It was.
It really was.
And a huge thank you to the family that helped put this together, Jason Flatt's family, Clark. And he was recently in South Dakota, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in Yankton at the Yankton Area Mental Wellness Conference. He was their keynote speaker down there a couple weeks ago. It was phenomenal. He did a great job carrying that message to folks in the professional capacity here in the state, and really great.
It's awesome that the time and effort that he's put into this, and again, for him to see this being adopted all around the country, it's just got to make him feel really good.
Well, I'm sure his son Jason is smiling down from heaven on his dad and all the work that he's put in. I mean, it's been 18 years since Jason took his life.
Yeah.
And his dad, it's all been from the heart.
And think of this now, there's such a nice positive legacy that's come from such a negative thing, and going to make a difference for thousands of other people. So Very, very nice. Now, moving on, again, our program this month is Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing. And we're going to be chatting with some other folks here in just a little bit. But while we got the party going in the studio, we're going to have Eric slide over here a little bit, and we'll chat with him. How you doing, mister?
Well, I'm just beautiful.
Welcome
John.
to the party.
Yeah, it's summer. Yeah, it's hard not to be in a good mood.
And I'll tell you, we're excited for the program tomorrow. We've got Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles, and Button Pushing. What do you want to chat about right now? I'm sure you got something on your mind.
You know,
you always do.
just, I always look forward to this opportunity with the partners in education, but especially this subject. I mean, it's close, near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I understand, Keystone, out of a lot of facilities, we put a heavy emphasis on a family program, a family component in our treatment process. And we do that for free of charge.
And it matters a lot.
Yeah. In fact, our family, Stephanie, who we hope we get to spend some time with, and Christy, they spend every Monday and Tuesday of each week, with the families and the loved ones of these patients that we're trying to turn the corner with here in addiction. And it is so critical.
Yeah.
For successful outcomes is that there's some level of family buy-in and understanding, and that's why Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing is a beautiful, I think, title for this, because the one thing about addiction, in my experience, it's a family illness.
Yeah.
It's a family disease. Everybody that is around the addicted person becomes impacted in one way or another, and it's almost like a mobile, as you move one piece, everything gets changed. And when we begin to get clean or we begin to get sober, a lot of the family dynamics are going to change and need to change.
Yeah.
I know in my own personal experience, and maybe Jay and Matt can share some of theirs, but, it changed everything, but it changed nothing.
Yeah.
The only real difference is that I was no longer drinking and drugging.
Yeah.
But yet it changed family dynamics in every way, shape, and form. The one thing, we'll learn about the roles, but I was always the scapegoat in my family.
Yeah.
Being the youngest, I was always the one
it was always
that
your
was
fault?
carrying the water. I was carrying the water. But at 90% of the time, they were right. I was wrong, but
I met you. I kinda
that was
wonder
my role.
If some of that was maybe
I remember,
directed right.
rejecting that some in early recovery as we moved through the process. It no longer was the case, and I started to do weird things, like responsible things.
Yeah.
I used to show up.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't the reason. I no longer fit that scapegoat role, and I remember the first thing I became aware of is that our family needed a scapegoat.
Yeah.
My older sister at that time then began to assume some of those roles. It was just amazing dynamic.
Got to blame it on somebody.
Well, and she was a better candidate than me. I think she was wrong, maybe 95%, but I'd covered for her for years. And
there you go.
It slowly tumbled through that by the end of 5 years of recovery and stuff, 90% of my family chose sobriety.
Nice.
Even without being addicted. They just decided they didn't need it in their life, and
they saw a change in you, is what they saw, and they said, "Boy, if this guy can change,
anybody can." Yeah.
And what a difference can happen in Eric's life. Then imagine what a difference could happen in my life. That right there is a testimony.
Well, and I had to learn how to deal with the family in a different way too. And not only was I active in 12-step recovery from an addiction standpoint, but I took part in 12-step recovery from a family standpoint. And we have different groups. I went for 2 years to learn how to relate to people in a way and not be such a control freak. I mean, the one thing about addiction that would, I think, define, and maybe these guys would agree, is that with such a lack of control over this disease, that the number one dynamic that seems to come through is everybody trying to control this thing. Yeah. And those control factors all have to change, and we have to learn how to communicate, and all these things were new. And so I look forward to Thursday, because I know this information really can impact the probabilities of people not only achieving sobriety but maintaining it long term, which is really what we're about. But proud of Keystone's 40-some year legacy and stuff, and we've always identified family as
absolutely
critical.
Devoted to that.
Yeah, and again, I just say we do that free of charge, and have and will continue as long as we're here, as we don't charge an extra penny to bring the family in. And Stephanie, I think, is one of the best in the business at dealing with it. So I don't know, Jay, how about you? You maybe had some experience a little bit with family dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. When I was really in the using stage of being an active drinker, and as I went along, my alcoholism became more of a chronic disease, meaning I was drinking all the time. And basically, I was responsible for, in large part, the demise of my first marriage, because there was no way then that I was ever going to give up alcohol. And it kept the problem festering and getting larger and larger and worse, till the point was that nobody could fix it. And the only thing I could do was walk away from it. So I walk away from it, but still I have the disease. That's a typical, I guess, earmark of any alcoholic. We try to change everything else before we try to change ourselves. Yeah. That's the control part of the disease that comes into it. We'll change anything except our habits of drinking, our habits of using, our habits of being addicted. We cherish that as an active user or an active drinker. There's no way we want to give that up. So here I roll through life and, get into another relationship and wow, taking the wife I have now down that same path that I took wife number one. Yeah. The only thing was, a lot of things happened. Her dad happens to be a counselor. Nice. at Keystone. Very unbelievable. Nice. So she knew the disease first and foremost.
That'll mess up your drinking.
and along with that was finally somebody understood the disease that I had before I did. Okay, when you're an addict, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, you're always the last person to find out you have the problem. Yeah. It just seems to be that way. And it was very typical in my case. And along with that comes, I got DUIs, started having problems at work, started having problems in all of my relationships. And whether it was friends, whether it was family, like Eric said just a couple of minutes ago, this is a disease that everybody around you gets to play, whether in your family, whether they're a friend. Everybody gets to play this disease whether they want to or not. Yeah. So finally it hurt bad enough after I had enough DUIs and problems and everything going on that, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to have anybody in my life if
That's not
if
where
I
you
continue
wanted to
to
go?
No. Finally, it hurt bad enough, and finally I saw the light to seek help. And along with that was this incredibly huge lie that I kept telling myself, that one day I would be a normal drinker. One day I would learn to be a normal drinker. Well, that's like asking a sheep to learn how to be a cat. You can't do that. Yeah. You can't do that. That's the big lie we carry into this addiction, that one day we'll be able to shake this on our own. One day we'll be able to handle the drinking on our own and be normal. Drink a normal amount of alcohol, 1 or 2, and then stop. A lot of people that are normal do that, They all do that. There's people that are normal that when asked for a drink say, I just don't feel like it today, There are people when they're normal that they'll take a couple of drinks out of their beer or drink whatever they're having and say, that's just hitting me wrong today. I've seen it happen. I just don't want it. Where all of us would be going, when we're active alcoholics, would be going, oh my God, that's a sin to waste that alcohol. What are you crazy? That's alcohol abuse. That's the difference between an alcoholic and a normal drinker. Yeah. Right there. An alcoholic will do anything for the booze, where a normal drinker could take it or leave it. And
so, as you were going through the treatment and when you got out of treatment, how did the family dynamics play a role for you?
It was really great in the fact that my wife understood that this is a disease first and foremost. It isn't a character flaw. It isn't a moral flaw. It's a disease. It's a diagnosed bona fide disease, and it has to be treated as such, and it was. And she came into it seeing that I really wanted to change and give up drinking and get rid of the alcoholic part of this disease, the active alcoholic part of this disease. But the thought of this jumped into my head now. I had to for me to give up drinking, I had to want to not drink about as bad as I wanted to breathe air.
Yeah.
That had to come from me, and she saw that. And so she saw that I was someone worth keeping. Nice. And she worked with me, and she came to all the support sessions, and family members did too. I had a tremendous amount of support from my family. Even though trust had been eroded to the point where there was almost no trust, I say this to anybody: trust is a hard thing to get back.
Yeah.
Once you lose trust, it's a very hard thing to build back. It takes years.
It does.
And recovery and treatment isn't an overnight thing. It's a work in progress all the time. We do it on a daily basis. We don't look at we're not going to drink for the rest of our lives. We look at we're not going to drink for today and today only. We ask God to get us through the day. We work the program on a daily basis. Yeah. Because that's all we have. We don't have tomorrow. There's no guarantee, so we have to work on this disease today, and today only, one day at a time. You don't trudge this alone. Nice. You do it through a sponsor. You do it through going to AA meetings. You do it through your family, having them all on board with you, and you do it by actively working the steps in the program each and every day, one day at a time. We don't look for tomorrow. We look at working this today and being the best person we can today, and asking for God's help to keep us sober today.
Well,
one day at a time.
Thank you for chatting with us in here, Jay. Listen to this guy. He's pretty darn good, isn't he?
Yeah, Matt's probably not had any family experiences.
No,
Matt sobered up when he was young.
Matt was telling us.
I think he was 12.
You got to tell us the story, Matt. You were telling. Would you be willing to share that about what your mom said? Because I thought that was absolutely wonderful. And Matt Walls right now. Now, I thought this was really good. And we're talking about family dynamics this month for Partners in Education. The event at the bakery at 11:30 on Thursday. Family dynamics, beyond power struggles and button pushing. And we're talking about family dynamics. I thought this was a pretty cute story, and I think your mom deserves a pat on the back for this.
Well, I think all family members deserve a pat on the back for dealing with us. But I tell you what, as Jay was describing with family members learning about addiction and learning about the process of recovery, I was fresh out of treatment center number 2, and my mother had been learning from other family members and counselors about how to deal with me and how to heal herself. And anyway, I was fixing to go get drunk one night.
How old would you have been at this time?
13.
No, I was a teenager. And I was fixing to go get drunk. But first I needed to pick a fight with somebody, because that was one of my mechanisms of control. I was going to go drink at her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alcoholics and drug addicts understand this line of thinking, because it's about manipulation, really, and about how do I not have to be responsible for my own actions. So anyway, I was going to pick a fight with her. So I went up to her, and I knew how to push her buttons, of course. I said, "Mom, I'm just not happy." And she looked me right in the eye like she had practiced this in the mirror. I don't know if she had or not, but she looked right back at me and she said, "Your happiness is not my responsibility." And she turned around and walked away. And boy, it took me a week to figure out what the heck just happened there. I didn't get drunk that night. I was so confused about what happened with my mother.
Let me look this up. What does that mean?
She had learned from somebody how to deal with my alcoholism.
And think about that bit of support for the family, from the family, and what a difference that made in that moment for you.
It was tremendous.
So if maybe somebody listening is, you may be the person that's saying, hey, you know what, I need to seek some help for myself. Or you might even be somebody that's saying, hey, there's somebody in my family that really could utilize some assistance in this. Reach out to Keystone. These are good people right here. There's a program tomorrow called Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing. And if you'd like to watch this online, how much does this cost for people to tune in and watch this thing, Eric?
Absolutely nothing.
It's free. Doesn't cost anything. And I've got a link that you can click on. Make it so easy. We put that on our Facebook page and streamed live at thebakerysf.com/live. Like I said, I'll put a link on there, so you don't even have to remember that. You just have to remember to click on and watch it. It's at 11:30 until 1 o'clock. Now, if you can make it to the bakery tomorrow, that's even better. We'd love it if you'd stop by. 910 North Main Avenue in Sioux Falls. And it's a great program. And you guys have pie again tomorrow?
Pie, yeah, and sandwiches. We feed lunch down there.
So there's lunch?
So, yeah, lunch is on us, too.
And pie, because it's pie at the bakery. Partners in Education.
And I'm not really sure what pie we're going to come up with. Matt's working on that, so it's always a surprise.
Whatever he bakes.
Yeah. One thing before we close and turn it over to the real professionals here, I just think about all the things that really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, really matter in life. I sobered up relatively young. So did Matt. Jay, it's been a pleasure to be a part and watch his journey. But looking back, 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
They say that, and that's very true. But the greatest gifts that I've been given with this thing called recovery has been involved in the relationships that I've had. It's not the money that we make. It's not I remember getting my first washer and dryer, buying it. I thought that was such a big deal. It's not the washer and dryer. It's not all the material things. It's relational.
It is.
And what recovery gave me was an opportunity to mend fences. And, in fact, it requires that, is to mend fences to the best of my ability to make right the wrongs. The one area that is most difficult is family. That's where the work is most critical, though, I think, too. And, with my parents, all the heartache. And, Matt, you can think of this. Sleepless nights. Being a parent now, I know. I didn't know then. I was too self-absorbed to even really understand that. But, the greatest gifts that I had was forming relationships with my family members, with my mom and my dad, with my brothers and sisters. Relationships that go far beyond anything that we ever would have had, maybe if without recovery even. But I was able to, sit and hold the hand of both my mom and dad as they took their last breath.
Yeah.
Knowing that everything that needed to be said had already been said.
Nice.
There was no unfinished business between us, because that's what recovery requires of me to do, is to do my utmost. That was not the case for the other people in that room necessarily.
Yeah.
They still had regrets. They still had, I wish I would have said this. I wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah.
Recovery in its fullness is one of the greatest ways to live life. I wish we could can it and give it to the general public.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think the average person would have the willingness to go to the length that we have to do in order to recover.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Oh, good golly. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
And you do it every day.
Every day. But the fruits that come out of this process are beyond anything I can really put into words. But I remember being at peace, though, with both, and my dad, I was just thinking of him this past Sunday because of Father's Day.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I miss him. I know he's in a good place, but I miss just that. Those moments to when we still interacted, because there was such depth to that interaction. It wasn't about the Cubs, even though that was a great subject. Cubs right now, they're winning, baby. But it was about real things.
Yeah.
And I still have that with my siblings today, my brothers and sisters. So it's an amazing transformation, Matt. I think you can attest to that too, and Jay, in its fullness.
And I can tell you were talking about Father's Day. This Sunday on Father's Day, I was thinking of my father. And my father was an alcoholic, and he didn't seek treatment. And we lost him when he was only 49. He never met my wife. He never met my kids. He never met, all of these wonderful people that are part of my family now that he never really had a chance to meet. All of my siblings, I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. He never met their kids, their wives, their husbands. Because he let alcoholism win. He didn't choose recovery. And in 1989, they told him he was diagnosed as diabetic. And they said, Craig, you need to quit smoking, you need to quit drinking, you need to lose weight. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And they said, well, it's going to kill you. And he said, I guess I'll die happy. Now, I can tell you one thing that I don't think he was happy. I saw what alcoholism does. That's why this is such an important topic to me. It really is, and it matters a lot. The family dynamics that we talk about here, those are people like me, people like you. And the program that's coming up tomorrow, I'm hoping that we'll have a chance to chat with the young ladies. We're going to make some phone calls here. And either way, we'll be back in a bit to wrap things up with the guys in the studio here. But family dynamics, beyond power struggle and button pushing. It's Thursday, June 23rd, 11:30 to 1 at the bakery in Sioux Falls. And how much is it again?
It's free.
It's free. John. And
there's pie and lunch.
And there's CEUs available as well. And if you know what that means, that matters to you. If you don't know what that means, it doesn't matter. But if you're looking for continuing education units for credits, those are available, 1.5 available for being a part of this. So we'll have more details about that coming up. And like I said, we'll be wrapping things up here in just a bit on this edition of Partners in Education.
Keystone Treatment Center would like to help you kick your addiction. Whether you struggle with drugs, alcohol, or some other addiction, Keystone may be able to help you find freedom. Call our toll-free number to learn more at 1-844-204-1055. Thousands of success stories from clients all over the country. Be the next success story. Get the help you need from Keystone Treatment Center. Chances are your addiction will not go away on its own. Get the pain to stop and let freedom begin. It starts with a call, 1-844-204-1055.
Thanks again for listening to Partners in Education. Now we have Stephanie Kucera. She's with Keystone Treatment Center, and she'll be one of the presenters tomorrow at Partners in Education at the bakery in downtown Sioux Falls. So first of all, let's say welcome to the program, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So what kind of things will you be talking about at tomorrow's program?
Parenting children with addictions, adolescents mostly.
And our subject for Partners in Education this month are the family dynamics beyond power struggles and button pushing. So, Stephanie, how big of a role do family dynamics play in someone's recovery?
With adolescents, it's really important that the families learn to, set healthy boundaries and not enable the addiction. And sometimes we get, as family members, sometimes they get sucked into the drama of the addiction itself, and they forget to do those things because they're trying to ease the pain for the child, but really sometimes that doesn't help at all. So they need to learn how to engage with the patients in a healthy way. And
so what you're saying is we don't want to coddle them. We kind of need to be a little tough. This is tough love, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. They need tough love. Mm-hmm. They need the parents to step up and be parents, and sometimes that's hard to do when they're adolescents because they get mad at you, But really, they want you to be mad. They want you to set boundaries, and they want you to enforce them, and they want you to follow through with the consequences, and they want to know that they're secure, and how they know that they're secure and they're safe. Even adolescents want that. But when they're using, then you have an extra battle to fight. So the using part of themselves is like, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, and I want to go get high. And so they start manipulating and conning and lying and deceiving and stealing and cheating, depending on how far down they've gone in that addiction. And when they start to do that, the parents will compensate. They'll either go real extreme, or they won't do anything because they just don't know what to do. So sometimes you'll find a healthy parent that says, "Hey, I took the door off our bedroom," because they were using in there, and I wanted to know what they were doing in there. So, and that's good. It's good to have kind of a set rule in the house. It's good to communicate with the children or with the adolescents that what the consequences will be if they don't follow the rules. They have to follow through with those consequences. That's not always easy. It's easy to say, well, you're going to be grounded for a month if you get high, but we don't always follow through with that. So one thing I really stress with parents is to only say what they're going to follow through with. Never idle threats, because adolescents and addicts alone will chew that up.
So mean what you say and say what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. And that's with an addict of any kind anyway, whether they're adolescents or not. But in particular with adolescents, they really need to know your bottom line,
Again, visiting right now with Stephanie Kucera, and she's with Keystone Treatment Center. You mentioned a little bit ago that, some parents just don't know what to do, and I'm assuming that doing nothing is probably the wrong thing.
Yep.
So what would you say are some of the things that you should do for sure? If maybe you have a child, somebody listening has a child that's struggling with whether it's alcohol or drugs, what are the things that they need to do for sure?
Well, call Keystone and get an assessment on the adolescent. Bring in collateral information when you come. So if you have documented times where you know that they've been high or using, bring that stuff with you. The adult can come with them. Sometimes the adolescents will lie, so you want extra information. But I think treatment, the sooner the better, is always the best way to go, even if it's outpatient. And counseling, you get some counseling. Maybe there's something else going on. Sometimes adolescents don't talk about the bullying that might be going on in school or the abuse that might be going on at home. So, sometimes there might be some of that going on, so some counseling. And, parents as well need to get some help. So I know, we have a parent support group, or it's actually opened up to families, a family support group on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock at Keystone Outreach. And, we welcome family members to come, but it's mostly parents that are there. So they would get some support for themselves because it's important that the parents have a place, an outlet, a place to talk. So, I just think everybody in the house, when you have an addict in the home, everybody's focused on the addict, and we stop focusing on ourselves. We need to make ourselves healthy, and the other kids in the family, they need, focus too, but we're so focused on the addiction that we stop focusing on, the sports of the other children, and because we get so scared to leave that person. And, so it's important that everybody else in the family continues to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And that's really not easy to do. So to get some help to do that would be good.
Well, Stephanie, I know you've got a busy day tomorrow. You'll be one of the presenters at Partners in Education at the Bakery. So give me a snapshot of what we're going to be learning at the actual Partners in Education presentation tomorrow at the Bakery in downtown Sioux Falls.
Well, I talked about a little bit of it today, but we're going to talk about boundaries. We're going to talk about what a healthy family looks like. We're going to talk about what addiction looks like too. Some people aren't as familiar as we are, So we're going to talk about that, and then we will also talk about enabling and just some healthy family structure type stuff and what to do to get help. So pretty kind of much, a lot of what we talked about here is going to be addressed, but obviously more in depth. So.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. And I know you're home sick today, not feeling well, so get better as well. I hope you're feeling better for tomorrow.
I hope so, too.
Well, thank you again, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Stephanie Kucera right there, and she'll be presenting tomorrow at Partners in Education. The program is called Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing, and the program starts at 11:30, and it goes until 1 o'clock at the Bakery in Sioux Falls. Now, you can get there a little early at about 11 and start having lunch if you'd like. It's at 910 North Main Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It'll be streaming live on the internet at thebakerysf.com/live, and there's free lunch and pie served beginning at 11. Like I said, there's also 1.5 CEUs available, so if you need some continuing education credits units, there they are, and this is a great program. Again, it starts tomorrow at 11:30. It goes till 1 o'clock. We'll have more details in just a bit. Thank you for listening. We're going to visit with Matt Walls one more time on this edition of Partners in Education on Sunny Radio.
Keystone Treatment Center would like to help you kick your addiction. Whether you struggle with drugs, alcohol, or some other addiction, Keystone may be able to help you find freedom. Call our toll-free number to learn more at 1-844-204-1055. Thousands of success stories from clients all over the country. Be the next success story. Get the help you need from Keystone Treatment Center. Chances are your addiction will not go away on its own. Get the pain to stop and let freedom begin. It starts with a call, 1-844-204-1055.
And we're back with Partners in Education. I have Matt Walls with me right now. It's a little quieter in the studio, just the two of us now.
Isn't that great, John?
We're going to talk about opioids. Now, let's talk a little bit about opioids, and then we're going to wrap things up, kind of reminding people about the Family Dynamics program. But this is a pretty interesting subject, and it's something that a lot of people don't understand.
A lot of folks have not become aware of the issue of prescription opioids in particular as it relates to addiction and people's health.
Yeah.
A lot of folks have not been talking about it, but now there's more media coverage of it. The Obama administration has done some stuff to recognize what a big problem it has become, what an epidemic it's become, and now we've got more information.
And where we
this.
talk about opioids, if that's something, I even struggle to say it, but if that's something that you're going, what is that? This is a prescription drug most of the time, correct?
That's correct. These are prescription drugs that are typically, they're derived from the opium poppy, okay? Same as heroin, same as morphine. They're all derived from the opium poppy or their synthetic derivatives thereof, okay? So we're talking about things like Percocet, Valium, Vicodin,
and these are
OxyContin.
These are typically things that are prescribed, hopefully to me. If they're prescribed to someone else, I shouldn't be taking it. But it's typically something that's prescribed to me for a certain incident that happened. And then when that is done, I'm addicted to it, and I can't get away from it. And one of the problems is it's a gateway drug to other things, isn't it?
That's right. And, one of the issues with prescription opioid medications is that they're great, superb pain relievers. And doctors recognize that, and they want to help their patients not be in pain.
Yeah.
Now, opioids were initially developed originally for end-of-life pain management, kind of terminal care, okay? So folks feel the least amount of pain possible before they pass. Now what's become commonplace is that we use these for everything from acute pain to chronic pain management, and sometimes that works just fine. But other times there's issues with that. And when we look at prescription drug stats, we know that only 50% of prescriptions are actually taken as prescribed.
Oh, wow. So
in the United States.
So that means that's half of the people are doing it wrong.
That's right. Now 25% of them are underusing the medication. Okay, that's where we take some of it, but not
like a half
all
a
of
pill.
It. Right, or we stop after a few days or something. You know what I mean?
I feel better, so I'm done now.
Right. My wife does this with antibiotics. That's very common to underuse. So 25% underuse, 25% abuse or overuse their medication. But only 50% take it as prescribed.
Yeah.
And with opioid medications, with stimulants as well, and with muscle relaxing types of drugs, those are the ones that tend to be overused the most.
And is it because it's so readily available? If I go in with pain and I get it prescribed to me, is that one of the reasons that it's so overused? Because of the accessibility?
Well, partially, and I don't want to blame doctors either.
No, I understand.
Because they're trying legitimately to help their patients be in the least amount of pain possible and trying to address it with the best, most effective means that they have. Okay, one of the things that I always tell patients and doctors is a good idea is to discuss alternatives.
So when they say we're going to put you on this medication, you can say, are there any other alternatives besides that? And there may be.
Right. What other options should we try? And just to have that discussion.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to tell doctors what to do or patients what to do, but I think having that discussion, having the ability to say, well, I'm willing to try this, but what else should I be trying first?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we do those things, we might prevent other things with the opioid medications because there's a lot of things that people don't realize. One is that prescribed opioid medications kill more people from overdose than heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine every year.
Oh, wow.
Combined.
You're kidding me. So prescription drugs, where it's prescribed, but they're overtaking it. They're taking too much.
That's right.
So I didn't realize it was that big of an issue. I knew it was an issue, but that's a big issue.
But that's overdose deaths. Now, not everybody who takes opioid medications is at risk for that, but some are, especially if they're on it for a long time, their tolerance builds up, and anybody can become addicted to an opioid medication after 14 days as prescribed. They will become physically dependent on it, meaning their body will go into withdrawal.
When they come off.
Right.
So if this is something that maybe people are dealing with right now, somebody that's listening is dealing with, Keystone has a great program that can help, and you guys are uniquely qualified in this area to do this, something that other places can't really do because they don't have the same qualifications.
We are. We have a specialized opioid track for people to come in if they're addicted to pain medication, opioid medications or heroin, because 80 to 90% of all new heroin addictions come from prescription drugs.
So they started on a prescription. Then when that prescription ran out, they wanted to get that fix, and they went to heroin for it.
Or their doc cut them off, something happened, and heroin is on the street. It's a lot cheaper than buying prescription drugs on the street. And so a lot of folks switch to heroin because it has the same effect. And really, prescribed opioids are very similar in nature to what heroin does in the brain. Crazy. So that's one of the things, but we are uniquely qualified in that we have a medical staff to help taper people down. We don't just, if you're on a prescribed opioid medication and you want to get off it, talk to your doc about what options exist. And if it's something that you're taking these things and you're having problems with it, call Keystone because we can help. We have doctors and nurses that taper people down, so it's not getting sick and having terrible withdrawal symptoms. Please, I never recommend anybody just stop cold turkey because bad things can happen with a person's health.
And you want to be working with somebody that has the proper training, and Keystone has that. There are other people out there that don't have that training. They want to help, but you can get the unique training, the unique help that's possible only by somebody that's qualified, and you can find that at Keystone.
Right, and if you've got a family member that may be struggling with opioid addiction, here's some questions that family members or people with an opioid addiction should ask. One, do you have medical detox? Do you have nurses and doctors available 24/7 that can help with my withdrawal symptoms? At Keystone, we taper folks down very humanely.
Nice.
They're not shaking it out on the bed. They're not having a hard time. It's very humane. One of the best detox programs I've seen. Secondly, family members should be asking, is your program licensed and accredited by the state and by other outside accreditation agencies?
Yeah.
Second, are your people trained in opioid addiction? Are they licensed counselors?
Nice.
Are you the real deal?
Yeah.
I think for patients to ask real questions, to ask, do you have a family program? As we're talking about family dynamics.
Exactly.
Do you have a family program? How does that work? What's your continuing care plan? What happens after the patient leaves?
Yeah, all of these things absolutely matter. So you make sure you ask those questions and seek the right help. And a great way to make sure that it's all covered is just call Keystone.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it really simple and really easy. Before we let you go, I want to make sure we talk a little more about Family Dynamics, the program that's coming up tomorrow. Everything gets started at 11:30. Now, 11:30 is when they have lunch kind of start. Is that correct? And then is the program actually kind of a little bit later than that?
No, we actually, good. I'm glad you asked.
Okay, I want to make
sure.
For
lunch, I like people to come at about 11.
Okay.
You'll have plenty of time to eat. We start at 11:30.
Very good.
Now, if you come at 11:30, you can still get lunch, but you'll probably eat it in the classroom.
You'll be slurping your stuff while people are trying to talk.
And you'll be crunching your chips while you're listening.
There you go. So you can come early then.
Yeah, come early. At 11 o'clock, we'll serve lunch.
Nice.
11:30, we start the program.
Perfect.
And we're done by 1.
And the continuing education units are available. Again, that's pending approval from BAPP. I don't know what that is, but again, if this is something that matters to you, you know what it is, don't they?
Yeah. And if you're a family member and you just want to participate, you're very welcome to do that. If you're a professional in the field, if you're a social worker, chemical dependency counselor, mental health worker, anything else, you're certainly welcome to attend to, and you'll have that CEU that'll go toward your recertification.
And there's a way to register online, and again, we've got a link for that as well on our Facebook page, facebook.com/sunnyradio. If they don't register online, can they still come in? Or is there a reason for just mainly to make sure we have enough food? Is that?
Well, I got to have enough pie.
Right.
But if you come and you don't register, that's okay too.
No pie
just
for
show
you.
up. You can, we'll probably have enough pie. I'll get some extra.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you again for hanging out with us here and chatting. Eric, thank you for coming back in.
Yeah, it's always good seeing you.
He'll let Matt do all the work on the end there.
Yeah.
He's got it covered, though. It's
He
good.
does. He has it covered.
Well, again, tomorrow, Family Dynamics, Beyond Power Struggles and Button Pushing, Thursday, June 23rd, 11:30. Come at 11 if you'd like to get in early and have that lunch, but 11:30 to 1. It's at the Bakery in downtown Sioux Falls, 910 North Main Avenue, and you can watch it streamed live at thebakerysf.com/live. And we've got a link to all of that at facebook.com/sunnyradio. Thank you for listening to another edition of Partners in Education.